You're quite low in the mix.
I do look really low, don't I?
You are very low in the mix at the moment, Ben, in music terms. Oh, there
Is
we
that
go.
better?
A little bit
New
better. If I
camera,
move
Phil.
back a
New
bit.
camera, you say?
Greetings, viewer. Welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben. Now, technical note, we're doing this on the Riverside app, which we used to use when we started the show, and then we had some problems with the connectivity, and we moved to tried another platform, and then we went back to this one. But we're cheapskates, of course, so we don't pay. We just use the basic version.
We are tighter than a pair of Italian waiters' trousers.
Yeah. So,
and I'm using a new webcam, so you can see more of my face.
I'm glad that my face isn't that close up to the camera, because that would be we might have to raise the certificate level for that. But
we are like a scene at Friday the 13th, aren't we?
So 1998. We've done 2 discussions on 1998. Is there anything more to discuss? That's the question.
Well, I've listened to a few albums this week from 98, dude. You have to excuse me because I kind of, before we started recording, I'd actually forgotten which ones I'd listened to. And I've got them in front of me. So I started off the week by listening to a former boy band member's second album.
It's not Gary Barlow again, is it?
It was Gary Barlow's follow-up album to the album that bored me to tears. No, I haven't. I've been Expecting You, but I'm moving my camera again. I've Been Expecting You by Robbie Williams. So, an album very much full of Britpop influences, catchy pop songs. We all know Millennium, don't we? Millennium.
I know that one, yeah.
And then No Regrets, which had Neil Tennant. Is it Neil Tennant from the Pet Shop? He had the Pet Shop Boys, and what was the guy from Divine Comedy? Neil, wasn't he?
Neil Hannon.
Hannon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's got things like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a good album. It's a good pop. Would you class it as a slightly pop crossover record?
Is there another song we'd know off that? Was there Come Undone? Was that on there?
I think Come Undone was on, and Strong. You think that I'm strong.
Was that on there?
You're right. And then that She's the One. I'm sure that was on there.
Which
the one he got into.
Yes, that's a little world party song, that is, isn't it?
It was a world party, a bit Carl Wallinger, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was done by them originally, I believe. I think
it was. Wasn't it off the Something Jumbo album? Was it off that album?
Goodbye Jumbo.
Goodbye Jumbo.
It could well be. I'm not the world's biggest world party expert, but it could be off there.
Yeah, but I would say that this album shows a little bit more of the vulnerability of Robbie Williams at the time. And I think it's a really good... I went to see him during this tour, so I don't really have... I haven't listened to Robbie Williams probably since the Escapology album, which I think was the 4th album. Because I think just seemed to release an album every year, because you had that Sing When You're Winning, I think was the follow-up to this one. And then you had Swing While You're Winning. He did that Swing album, which wasn't too bad. And then Escapology was the album he wrote after he signed that mega record deal. They're not bad albums. As a first 4 or 5 albums, you can see why Robbie Williams became the king of pop. And didn't even need a pet monkey either to become the king of pop, which I thought was a staple for all kings of pop to have. Did you have a pet monkey?
True, but did he not do a song about going to Las Vegas with a monkey?
With his monkey, yeah, that's on the Escapology album.
Is that song based on Michael Jackson? Or I can't. I've heard it once. I think I've never heard it.
It's a good song, isn't it? Oh, I really like that. It's quite clever. That track is.
Do you know where I first heard that song? Whilst in a car, whilst travelling to Las Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's generally true. My mate put it on a playlist, or it's probably a tape in those days. Maybe it was a CD. But
CD, I'm sure CDs were around in that.
Yeah, but when you make
that album
came
out about 2002.
Okay, yeah, probably possibly burnt a CD then. But yeah, that's where I first heard the song. I don't know if I've ever heard it since.
It is a very good song.
It's a long song, isn't it? And it
It
mentions
is. I think it's about 7-8
and it
minutes.
mentions the Mandalay Bay Hotel. And then when we
It
arrived in Las
does.
Vegas, we saw the Mandalay Bay Hotel. So it was a very fitting song to have on the playlist. But I don't know why
Did you
that's
do
probably
any
why it's
gambling?
stuck in my mind. I did a very small amount of gambling in Las Vegas, and I'm talking about no more than sort of 20 quid or something. I may have put something in a slot machine, and I may have done
I bet you did.
I may have done I may have done a roulette wheel, and I can't remember
I've heard
now.
you're banned from casinos, young
Yeah,
Phil.
yeah. Well, there's no way I would bother trying because I don't know how to play most of the games, and obviously
No,
it's.
I'm a bit like that. That's why I don't gamble.
I
Because
think the best one to play is blackjack in terms of the odds are better in your favour if you play blackjack. But even I wouldn't have any confidence to go and play any of those things in a casino.
always bet on black, as Wesley Snipes once said in Passenger 57.
Yeah, so
Was it Passenger 57? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
I'm not sure how we got onto that from. Well, I know how we got onto that, but we need to get back onto.
1998
Yeah,
albums. So I've listened to a bit of Robbie Williams, and it's the first time I listened to that album all the way through in probably 15 plus years. And I actually really quite enjoyed it. And it could be knocking on the door for my top trois.
okay.
So, and then I listened to an album. Some may say a pivotal album of indie rock. Even I wouldn't say it's an indie rock album, but an album by Chan Marshall, who also goes by the name of Cat Power.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it is, I can see why it's thought of highly because it is very well produced. It is intimate and emotionally raw and introspective. But I think at the time when I was listening to it, I found it not hard going, but I found it quite slow. If you know what I mean. While I was listening to it, I knew that it was good, but it didn't fit the mood that I was in at the time. So I didn't warm to it as much as I should have done.
Yeah, that
But
happens,
it's,
doesn't it? That happens. You know it's good, but it's not quite your mood for that, your vibe for
yeah,
that
yeah.
time.
And it is, in some ways, it is mesmerizing at the same way it's really melancholic. It's yeah, it's very much an album. It's not built for listening to the gym, but it does capture a sort of fragility, mental health stuff, and in like introspection and all that sort of. It's very much an album I think you're going to be listening to on a rainy day, and you've got the fire on, and you just it's it's good, and I know it's good, but it's not good enough for that. If I'd listened to it in the right environment, I probably would have appreciated it better. So, Cat Power. First time I've listened to Cat Power as well. I remember she was around a lot around that time that Cat Power was a thing, but yeah, first time. First time for everything, Philster. I mean, I'm only 26 years late to that party, but I have turned up on the door and I've bought nothing. I'm literally coming in to eat the food, drink the wine, and then leave. And that's what I did. So, next up, we'll go through all mine first. Next up was the third album by British trip hop pioneers. Can you guess what it is?
Well, that's got to be the one that's got is it a beetle or something on the front of it? Is that right? Am I
I think
thinking
it
of
is
it?
a Beatle. I did look up what kind of
It's
Beatle it is.
it's Mezzanine by Massive Attack.
It is Mezzanine by Massive Attack. Again, probably listened to it in the wrong environment, but I had listened to the album before because I have become a lover of trip hop in the last 5 or 6 years, Phil. But yeah, just tracks like Teardrop, Angel, Interior Creeps. It's another quite brooding album. I think it's got Elizabeth Fraser from the Cocteau Twins on one of the tracks, if I remember rightly. But yeah, it's a good album. Another one where I don't think it's a Jim album, which is where I had it on. But I wasn't, what's the word? That hasn't adjusted the way I think about the album because I have listened to the album in the right environment. So therefore, I do understand it and appreciate it, and it is knocking on the door. It could be one of my top three. It has stood the test of time. It still continues to influence people. So it's got to be up there, isn't it? That album. It doesn't sound. I think we had this discussion the other day, didn't we, about it? That a lot of these albums from this time don't sound dated. They sound like they were recorded today. If that makes any sense. So
Yeah, I know what you mean. They don't sound too much like a '90s album. They could have been made to be. I mean, maybe because I haven't listened as much to stuff from the very recent times, maybe, but they don't sound that dated to me. And there's a lot of younger people who get into some of these '90s albums, don't they? So they can't
yeah,
sound too dated.
they can't. They can't.
I think
My
the early '90s had a bit more of a sound, didn't it? A bit of a production sound where you can tell it's an early
yeah.
'90s production.
Yeah, because you still had that carryover from the 80s synth, didn't you? It's almost got that synthesized sort of sound to it, that sort of.
Yeah, there was a carryover. There were some early '90s albums that still had this sort of drum sound treatments on them
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
sort of keyboard sounds and things that sounded quite a bit 80s. But it was also a sort of a way of recording things. There was a sort of a bright brittleness to certain sounds in the early '90s on some
yeah,
productions,
yeah.
and by '98 it was it just I don't know, I can't really describe it, but it is a little bit different.
Maybe technology and production
Just
costs.
trend and trends as much as anything else, and different tech.
Yeah, yeah. So the last two albums I've listened to this week were, and one of them I did buy it. Do you remember the Big W? Do you remember the Big W used to be over at Coventry? It was part of the Woolworths chain.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about the shop. I was trying to think of some
Yeah,
music.
shop. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember going over there one time and I bought two albums. This was one of them, and the other one was The Cult of Anton Deck by Anton Deck. So, to be fair, buying that album, I only bought it because it had the song Shout on it, and I quite like that Anton Deck song. So, this album at the time when I bought it sounded better than what it probably was. A lot of people really enjoy this album. I thought another one of those slow brooding albums. It's Embrace and The Goodwill Out. And I don't think I ever truly connected with this album because I remember Danny McNamara coming out and saying, "Oh, Oasis B-sides wouldn't make Oasis A-sides wouldn't make Embrace B-sides." And all I can say to that is, Danny McNamara, how's your sellout gigs at Wembley going? Oh, you're not. So
was that the first album by Embrace?
I'm not overly. I think it was, yeah, yeah, because it had all you good people come back to what you know. It's very anthem filled, stadium fillers is what I'd class it as. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's got good production and everything on it, but it doesn't. I mean, people say it's one of the most impactful debut albums of the 1990s, but it just never really hit me in the gentleman luggage, really. So,
What do you think of it
but
now?
I don't know. I think I've still got that little bit of bias towards it. Maybe, whereas I kind of, no, I don't think, no, it just doesn't grab me as an album. And that's all I can say. Listen to it again. I can understand why it's a good album, but it's not a great album for me. It's a perfectly fine album. I like a stadium-sized ballads. I love uplifting rock, but it's just It hasn't got an edge. It's like a balloon, is what I'm going to say on it, Philster. So it's as edgy as margarine, but I probably appreciate it a little bit more now than I did then. And even now, I probably don't really care that much without sounding horrible. So, and then last one on my list, so I don't bore you anymore, was I think it was produced by the same guy that did Nirvana's Nevermind, Butch Vig. They are from this Isles, and this was their second album. Can you tell what it is yet?
Yeah, this was a band that had largely Brits in it. I think the one I'm thinking of is more of a transatlantic band, maybe because it just had Butch Vig in it.
Or was they
But I'm
transit?
thinking,
Was some of them
I
American?
thought some of them were American, but I'm thinking this is a band that had a Scottish woman singer. Am I right to think that?
It did have a Scottish woman
So it's
singer, yes.
version 2.0 of Garbage.
It is 2.0 of Garbage, and I enjoyed it. I forgot what a good album it was. The sort of alt rock electronica stuff of it, you know. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more this time round than I did at the time, and I did buy it at the time. And is it Shirley Manson, isn't it? Yeah, she's got quite a smoky, seductive vocal. I find there's something sort of sexy about you, Miss Manson.
But they're
Are you
still
trying
going.
to seduce me?
They're still going, aren't they? They played
They are.
the
They
festivals
toured
last
with
year.
they toured with Noel Gallagher in America as well, I think. So, but it's I would say it is better than their debut album. I'm going to put that out there. I think it's
Okay.
better. Yeah, I am going to say it's better than their debut album. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really, really, and unlike um, Embrace, this has got a little bit of an edge on it. This is like a granite block. That kind of edge. One you could do yourself damage on, Filster, if you were to trip, or if somebody was to maybe pull a rope up in front of your legs. So, but yeah, I actually enjoyed this album more when I listened to it this time because my ears have got older than I did when I bought it. So, again, could it challenge my top three? Yes, it could. Will it be in there? Who knows, Filster? Who knows? It could be, it might not be, but it might be in there, and if it is, it is, and if it isn't, it isn't. You're just going to have to live with my choices, son. You're just going to have to live with my choices.
Now, what about
I've had
neutral
coffee, by the way.
neutral milk hotel?
Do you know what? That does sound like a sex club.
In the aeroplane over the sea. It's an interesting title for an album.
Yes, yeah.
Just reading the notes, it was inspired partly by the life of Anne Frank and also captures the brilliance of an extraordinary life and devastation of an untimely death. I didn't realise that album was inspired by Anne Frank. I've only heard little bits of it. It does sound good, but I've never really got into it.
To be fair, for album, the what's the word that I'm looking for, dude? When the inspiration to an album is something, I suppose even that had a morbid ending, she did lead and she has inspired others since. So I suppose there is that inspiration.
There is that, you see.
Yeah, yeah. So I can you could quite easily turn around and go, oh, God, it's going to be quite morbid and forlorn, as it were. But I suppose, well, yeah, she has inspired generations since. So it is still a little bit of a weird inspiration for an album. But who's to say it's right or wrong?
How about Gomez? Bring It On. Ever listen to that?
Yes, because didn't Gomez do that liquid skin?
I think so. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I remember listening to that. I thought it was Liquid Skin or something like that, wasn't that? Was a good album. Think, did I ever got Bring It On? I might have it on CD, compact disc, but I don't. It doesn't. It doesn't resonate in the old brain.
you can't remember lots of songs from it.
N-
No.
No, no, no. But I do remember it being a thing, and I know I've got. Is it Liquid Skin? You tell me about it, and I'll see if I can find out what I'm talking about.
Well, I first really heard of Gomez when they got nominated for the Mercury Music Prize. That, I think, for many people, that's probably where they first heard of them, and they won the Mercury Music Prize. They did. Liquid Skin was the next album, I think.
Ah,
Or hang on, it's no, actually, it's not the next album. It's actually
I
quite.
didn't realise they're from Southport.
Yeah, yeah, they were from Merseyside. Liquid Skin is 2019. That was that. That was the, mind you, that was a 20th anniversary edition. So it must have come out in, what year are we in? 1998. It must have come out in
Yeah.
99 then. Liquid Skin was the
Came out in
second.
'99. Yeah, it went to number 2 in the charts.
Similar kind of artwork on the front. For
Yes, it is. Yeah.
green rather than white and
Yeah,
whatever.
there we go. Don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. So it kind of looks like part two of the first one. But I've never listened to part two. I've only heard the first album. But it's good. Was it going to knock on my top three? Well, I suppose it's possible, but I don't know yet.
Anything's possible, Phil.
Everything's possible. Um, Other albums of '98 that I've never actually heard. What about Celebrity Skin by Hole?
Hole. I've never been a massive thing with Hole.
I've
I
never
mean, I
been.
like holes
I've never been that.
in polos.
I've
They're
never.
handy.
I've never been that much into Courtney Love, but I know that there's sort of two albums. There was Live Through This, and then there was
Yeah, yeah.
Celebrity Skin. Are both highly regarded, but I've never totally dived in. Um, but she was quite loopy, wasn't she? So maybe it's good fun. I mean, maybe maybe it's worth a listen.
Yeah, that's just never, it's just never tickled my fancy.
No, but I must give it a try because I can't. You can't knock it till you've tried it, can you? Really?
Well, that's what they keep telling me, Philster. So, I'm going to ask you a question now,
Yeah,
and I want you to look me in the eyes. Are you ready?
I'm
Have you
ready, Ben.
listened to Maybe You've Been Brainwashed Too yet?
No, I'm really sorry, I haven't. And that's from this year, isn't it?
It is from 1998. I'm not going to edge my bets here, but there is a good, strong possibility, because I've been barking on about that album since it came out, that it may be in my top three. It will be in my top three.
I'm just looking at this list from You Discover Music, which is very American in oriented, and I don't think it's on there.
What, Maybe You've Been Brainwashed Too?
Yeah, it's not in their list of top 50. It's not in their top 50. It doesn't seem to be in their top. How many have they got on here? 67 albums on this list. It's not on there. Why is it not on there, Ben? If it's so good,
Is it at the bottom, like really small print, because it was so good they just couldn't write too much about it?
it
Because
looks as if they didn't actually make the list.
are you missing a page?
Or they're just not cool enough.
I think whoever wrote that list should be hung, drawn, and quartered. How is it not on the list?
I don't know. Kid Rock's in there.
What on earth? Kid Rock.
Some people. We did a hard rock album in '98.
Oh, well, that's really good.
He's kind of. He appeals to a
Rubbish.
certain audience, doesn't he, Kid Rock?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know that the
Sort of,
Jerry Lee Lewis fans, because when Jerry Lee Lewis did his anniversary thing, whatever it was, and he did those albums where modern rock stars performed with him, he invited Kid Rock on to both of those because Jerry Lee Lewis himself liked Kid Rock because it reminded him of himself being rebellious. But of course, a lot of the fans were, well, we don't mind you doing, collaborations with Eric Clapton or Bruce Springsteen or Jimmy Page or Willie Nelson or whoever. But Kid Rock, that was just beyond the pale for a lot of people. They couldn't. They couldn't.
Yeah, to be fair, I've never quite got the Kid Rock thing.
He's just, to me, I suppose I've never really listened to a huge amount of his stuff, but he strikes me as being that sort of music that would be played in a bar in a small town in the Midwest where there's a local woman who runs the car wash and she is also a stripper.
Yeah,
Would that make sense?
yeah, and she's also the local surgeon
Well,
and
maybe.
vet.
And
Yeah,
and truckers go into the bar, and that's the sort of music that would play.
and your
in there.
mum and dad are not only your mum and dad, but they're also their own brother and sister.
Possibly, but
That kind of place.
yeah. But I say I don't know enough about his music to slag him off because I've only heard about 3 songs, so it doesn't seem
Yeah,
right, does it?
I've never. I don't think Kid Rock is on my my radar.
What
at all.
about Electroshock Blues by Eels?
I do like the album. I remember listening to that album about 10 years ago because it was Eels that did Beautiful Freak. Well, wasn't he called Ben, the lead singer of
The lead singer of
Eels?
Eels. Well, he was certainly compared to you at times, but I don't know whether he was actually
Wasn't
called
it?
Ben.
Is it? Am I getting him or Ben's Fold 5 mixed
Yeah,
up? Didn't he lose?
you're possibly mixing up your slightly arty, quirky American acts there.
Which was
Yeah,
the one who lost his? Didn't he lose his sister or something in a car accident? Because he goes by the name of E, isn't it?
yeah.
Um,
Isn't the guy who does who are we talking about again? Eels. Doesn't he? Isn't he called Mark something?
yeah, Mark
Mark E.
Oliver Everett, isn't it? Something like that.
That's why it's called E, isn't it? Because his surname begins with E.
I mean, he does. I can see the resemblance. Look, I mean, he looks like he basically looks like Phil. So if me and you had a child, that's what it would look like. That's yeah. So I'm sure he had some very much some horrible stuff going on in his life. I'm sure his his father died of a heart attack when he was 19, and I'm sure it was him. I can't. I won't sort of. Oh yeah, his mother died by suicide in 1996. No, his sister. And in 98, his mother was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, and his dad died of a heart attack. I knew there was some quite a horrific backstory to him. I think that's where some of the but yeah, I've never listened. I have listened to that album, but not for 20 years. But the Beautiful Freak album is a really, really good album. So if you haven't listened to it, people, get out and listen to it. Or else, Philster, and I think he's on that side of my screen. If he's not, he's on that side of the screen. Philster will hunt you down because he used to work for the CIA. He knows where you all live.
Now, how about Mark Hollis, the former main man of Talk Talk, now sadly departed, of course, but he did a solo album in '98 called Mark Hollis.
Catchy album title.
And apparently it extends the work of Talk Talk to be a fusion of jazz, folk, and ambient. So it
Because
sounds.
Talk Talk are one of the big influences for Elbow, aren't they?
I can probably guess. Yeah, I can see how that is the case.
Yeah. What's the album they've got with like a tree face thing on it?
Is that Spirit of Eden?
I think that's the one, yeah. I do own some Talk Talk, actually. Let's see what Talk Talk albums I've got. I'll be able to tell you. You haven't listened to Elbow yet, have you?
Not in any real depth, apart from the obvious stuff that's known.
Colour of Spring, that's what I've got.
Oh, the colour
That's the
is,
album I was
yeah,
thinking.
that's the one with the
And I
face
think
thing on the
I've
front.
got, yeah, Butterflies.
That's it. It's a butterfly that kind of looks like a face or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I've got some more Talk, and I've just not logged it in my collection. I think I've got that one as well. The Party's Over. I think I've got that one as well. I'm almost convinced I've got that one, which means that I don't know if you can see. I'm gonna take my camera off for a second, but that means I'm gonna have to go through all of these here,
The Party's Over was the first album.
and then there's a load down here. There's more albums down here. Look at them all. So I'm
The
going to
second
go through
one
all of them
is
to find that album.
It's My Life was the second one, and The Colour of Spring was the third one. And then they
Yeah,
went really out there with Spirit of Eden. That's the one that was kind of jazzy and folky and ambient, and then Laughing
yeah. I'll
Stock.
tell you what, if they threw some reggae in, that'd be your ultimate musical collection, now, wouldn't
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? So
it? Yeah, I love the way you said that. So deadpan.
yeah, so yeah, great. So
I've never listened to the album. I didn't even know he did a solo album. Is he no longer with us then? Did he?
Mark Hollis,
Is
yeah,
he?
it was last year or so ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I know they are quite a what's the word? A well, obviously they're an inspirational band, aren't they? They're probably not talked as highly about as they should be from that sort of period. Are they better than Duran Duran?
I think they're more arty than Duran Duran. And I think they were kind of aimed at a slightly more. Well, see, Duran Duran, of course, got aimed. Duran Duran started in a nightclub, didn't they, in Birmingham?
Yeah, yeah,
And so obviously everybody in the nightclub was over 18, probably people in their 20s. But when Duran Duran started having records out, the record company sort of stuck them in smash hits and the teen magazines and things, and they became this, a teen
yeah,
thing
yeah,
to some extent. So in effect, they were marketed. I don't mean in a pejorative way, but they were marketed down. They were marketed down at the
yeah, yeah.
kids, Duran Duran. Whereas
That's where the money is.
Talk was always seen as, I suppose, music for sophisticated music. It wasn't aimed at
Yeah, yeah, because
teenagers anyway.
they're not arty in that annoying way that is it. We will be giants, whatever it is, of course.
Yeah, it's not that kind of thing. So talk is. I tend to think of other acts from that time, like Prefab Sprout. They
I
were
love Prefab Sprout.
that was some kind of similarities there with particularly the earlier
What's the
stuff.
lead singer of Prefab Sprout called?
Paddy McAloon.
That's it.
Yeah, he's a
Oh,
very good songwriter.
he is. Yeah, I think he's written for quite a few other people, hasn't he?
Yeah,
And the fact they wrote the song, "King of Rock and Roll,"
completely.
completely. Yes, yeah, and introduced us all to the word Albuquerque. So I think that's a great pop song. And what's the other song they did? That Love and Hate Collide? Is it? No, that's Def Leppard.
Well, there's
What's it?
cars and girls. No, what's it called?
Love Breaks Down. That's the other one, isn't it? When love breaks down.
Oh, that's another
No,
one.
no,
What's the one
no.
about something so more than cars and girls? What was that song?
Wasn't that the name of the album as well?
Well, there's a few albums.
Yeah. I don't mind a bit Prefab Sprout. Prefab Sprout is one of those artists missing from my collection. I know they appear on Smash Hits 88 with King of Rock and Roll, but oh yeah, that's all I have of Prefab Sprout.
I'm just
Where
looking
were
at.
we were talking about eels, weren't we? Eels up inside, yeah, making an entrance where they can.
Yeah, it was called Cars and Girls. That song.
Yeah.
Um, A Life of Surprises. That was another hit. There's a lot. They didn't have a huge number of big hit singles, did they? There were more albums, really.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I don't mind arty when it's not in your face arty, where you kind of know they're trying to.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm being really clever with this.
That was
Yeah,
just sort
so.
of. I think it was 80s sophistopop. I don't know whether that's.
Oh, I tell you what, you should have worked for the
I
NME
haven't
coming up with
coined that
these.
phrase. I think that phrase has been out
Oh,
there before. It's not me. I'm not that
you,
clever.
oh, you could have blagged that one, Phil. So I'd have been going out, going, "Oh, my friend Phil, he came up with sophistopop."
I really didn't.
I could have got that on a T-shirt. Your face on it just said "Mr. Sophistopop." In fact, I might still get that T-shirt made. That'd be a brilliant T-shirt. Imagine that. Maybe we should get some merchandise and have that T-shirt. Your face, Mr. Sophistopop, on it. Sounds like something off
Great.
of CBeebies, doesn't it? Hello, Mr. Sophistopop. What are you up to today? I'm going down to the band hut today. Oh, why are you going down there, Mr. Sophistopop? Oh, I'm going down there to play with my trombone. Oh, what are you going to do with your trombone? Oh, I'm going to get it and I'm going to wah, 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 wah. Oh, Mr. Sophistopop, you're so clever at music.
Why are you not writing scripts for CBeebies?
Because there's probably numerous restraining orders stopping me. Imagine me on
You
CBeebies.
don't have to be on
Oh,
it. You
God.
just write the material. They can keep you in the background.
Oh, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? I would get a few innuendos in there.
I'm sure you would. You'd probably
Yeah,
become a
yeah.
cult amongst
Well, some people have
30-something
said something
mums.
different.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm back. So, yeah, that's where I'm with 1998 anyway, Philster.
Well, I haven't got much further with 98, but next programme we will have to choose our
We will,
favourite three.
yes.
I have to get some
We
more.
are going to have to choose. I'm Mr. Susan. Now it's time for you to do the choosing.
So, viewer, have we inspired you to go back and check out or
Probably not.
rediscover any other albums of 1998?
Doubt it.
Well, let us know in the comments if we have. We will be back with another show very soon. Thank you for watching.